Benjamin, and I'm your bright, shiny worship associate for this morning's service. We invite you to join us for this very special service of the UUCC's 10th anniversary. Our featured guest speaker is the Rev Ben Meyers, who played a significant role in our formation. This particular service will be music-rich, with outstanding regular musicians, along with special guest pianist Shauna Pickett-Gordon, UUCC's Music Director Emeritus. Unitarian Universalism stands among the liberal faith traditions of this nation. As a denomination, not just this congregation, but all of our congregations, UU advocates for LGBTQ rights, reproductive rights, civil rights, affordable housing, I'm going to add democracy, and climate justice, as we work together to promote justice and repair this world. Well, you are all very welcome here today, and if you were wondering what the Unitarian Universalist Coastside community stands for and what our core values are, this is a perfect service for you to attend today. Reverend Ben's sermon today is called How the Light Gets In. It illuminates some ways we can repair ourselves and our troubled world, and the necessity for spiritual care and community during these very difficult times. And now, with great pleasure, I introduce our special guest speaker today. Rev Ben Meyers was ordained into the Unitarian Universalist ministry in 1995. He has served parish, community, nonprofit, and social justice organizations throughout Northern California, and has founded and fostered several UU congregations during his ministry. Currently, he serves as the spiritual care counselor for Redwood Hospice in Daly City. He's an ardent advocate for transgender rights and loves working with individuals and faith-based communities to accelerate the adoption of clean energy, thank you, especially solar, as a moral imperative. He resides near Lake Merritt in Oakland, California. Welcome, Reverend Ben.
Good morning. Oh, good. Our opening, let's see, I have some words first. It's good to be here. It's been a minute, as they say nowadays, meaning a while. And so I'm so happy to be here. And I'm also happy to have brought along my youngest son, Theo, who grew up in the UU church, especially many years at San Mateo. It's good to see so many friendly faces here today, and to be with you all. So I invite you, if you would, to release yourself from things that maybe you're holding on to, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Take a deep breath, if you will, and let's just all be here and entrain together in this place as one body. The invocation today is based upon familiar, I believe, words, at least within Unitarian Universalist context, of the 13th century Persian poet Jalaluddin Rumi, who speaks to us from long, long ago, and yet his words are as potent and pertinent today as they were when first spoken. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, for ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. And so we come this morning to welcome each and all, whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey. Whether you come from rich heritages of liturgy and pomp, or from burning legacies of angry gods and threats of hellfire and judgment. Come to this oasis of the Spirit, just as you are. Whether you come this morning with exuberant and joyful heart, eager to share your zest for life with any and all, or if you come heavy laden, bereft of the goodness of life, questioning, uncertain, hesitant, come to this sanctuary of solace and strength, just as you are. As Rumi himself was a refugee in the land we now call Afghanistan, we welcome everyone here to this place you never knew before was home. There are no immigrant beings here, only brothers and sisters, cousins and friends, gathered here to celebrate our longing for wholeness. Though you may have broken your vows 1,000 times, this is no caravan of despair. So come just as you are, as we are. Come to join as members of one human family in this beloved home. Come again and yet again. Come. So now, as is my wont, we will sing these words. They are in your order of service. How many of you are familiar with this tune? Oh, good. Okay, so what's going to happen is I've asked Theo if he would come forward, and we're going to sing this all together once, and then we're going to sing it twice as a round. Very good. Some of you knew what was coming. So what we'll do is we'll sing it all together, and then Theo, I'll take this row and these two rows, and you'll take this side over here. Why don't you come on up? And so we'll sing it together once. I know you'll sound better and feel better if you rise in body or spirit. So please do that if you will, if you want. We're going to sing it together.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
With me.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, yet again, come.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Dave.
My name is Dave R. I'm one of the Dave R's here in this congregation. And I'll turn on our lantern. Craig Rowland's I Breathe is today's chalice lighting. Since we are discussing history here, this specific chalice is made from coastal cypress and has been used in every UUCC service since Tom McClune gifted it to us November 2015. For today's chalice reading, let's take turns reading alternative lines. I'll read the first, and then you join me in reading the italicized lines in your order of service. I breathe in the warmth of this light, its glow filling the spaces where fear and doubt reside, and I breathe out the tension I carry. I release what no longer serves me. Let's all read together. I breathe in the strength of our community, a sanctuary of diverse voices that share purpose. I breathe out the urge to go it alone. I embrace the power of togetherness. I breathe in the courage to speak the truth, even when it trembles on my lips. I breathe out the silence that holds me back. I make space for honesty and justice. Together.
I
breathe in the hope of transformation, knowing we are here to build and to heal. I breathe out despair, trusting that change is born in small acts of love.
As we light this chalice, may each breath remind us of the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, and the power we hold to shape the world around us.
Good morning, I'm the other Dave. And I was present at the beginning of UUCC's history which now scans its first decade. Our service today honors that history in 4 acts. Act I I refer to as the early days. On the first day, which was in July 2015, there was light. It shone down upon us. That's a religiously toned way of saying the sun was shining when we met at the Half Moon Bay Coffee Company. And the sun shining was a good portent for a beginning. We gathered in response to Nancy Palmer's posting on Nextdoor regarding interest in establishing a UU presence on the coast side. 5 of those attendees are here today. Noreen, Nancy, my wife,
Joanne.
and myself. And Laurel. I know. So you were behind me. Okay. Now, based on my life experiences, I highly recommend starting every new adventure with baked goodies, like the ones we had at the Half Moon Bay Coffee Company. They were also a good portent. After the first meeting, we met in private homes. Early on, we formed our first board, which consisted of Sandy Coleman, Nancy Palmer, Storm Russell, Noreen Cooper, and myself. We agreed to twice monthly services on the first and third Sundays. We also had strategic meetings with Rev Ben from UUSM and Rev Doniper from the UUA. UU San Mateo agreed to provide UUCC with free fiscal sponsorship services and the insurance rider we needed to rent our space at the New Leaf classroom. I'm going to go a little off script right now because mentioning UUSM's involvement in our early days takes me to Ben. I'll share 2 memories that I didn't share for today in the official thing. One, in one of the early dealings with Ben, we were talking about our UU background, and I said to him, well, my first social justice activity in UUA that really meant something to me was I went to the Nevada test site to protest nuclear testing there. And he said, you were there? And we talked about it. He says, well, I was there. And we didn't know each other there, or we didn't before then or then. And then all these many years later, just in conversation, this magical moment we both had in social justice activity was just a special, very special connection for me. The other memory I have early on is we had a new member who was very active and a good member, but we happened to find out that he didn't tell us he was a registered sex offender. And this was the first test of our UU values. How do you handle that? And as a social worker in the group, they said, well, Dave, what do we do? And I said, well, I think I'm going to call Ben. And the help he gave was very wise, and it helped us live to our UU values. So I just wanted to add that to the script. Okay, back on script. Among the Sunday service topics for our early meetings in homes were the challenges of immigration and a class divided. They were about racism and tribalism, and they were both led by Storm Russell. On December 6, 2015, we first met in the New Leaf community classroom. 12 people were present when Storm introduced the topic of the recent violence around us from a Unitarian perspective. Then starting in January 2016, we began alternating between touchstone themes on our first Sundays and discussions on our 7 UU principles and sources on the third Sundays. Those were really fun discussions we had. So now recently, Maureen asked members for favorite memories to be shared in this history telling from the early days, and Diana Lights and Nancy Palmer shared these special memories. Diana fondly remembered meeting in private homes in 2015, Sandra Adams' home in Ocean Colony, and Aisha Barrow's home in Half Moon Bay. Diana particularly remembered Sandra's spacious home and delicious home baked goods, and Aisha's adorable baby. Nancy's fondest memory from these early days involved the discussion of UU's first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Now, this event was shortly after Donald Trump won the 2016 election. I can remember we were seated in Sandra Adams' spacious home, and we were all sitting, and Storm walked around with this picture of a smiling, just elected Donald Trump. And I think he was presenting us with at least a paradox. The inherent worth and dignity of every individual, Donald Trump. To which I say now, no comment in this celebration is needed on that bad portent, except to note that UUs, by our very nature, will always be involved in social justice issues. And that's a good portent. And I will add my favorite too, as always. More freshly baked goodies will always help us as we enter into our second decade. And now, for Act II, I want to welcome our multi-talented man of the arts and avid home baker, Bill.
Thank you, Dave R2. So we had a grand opening in May of 2016 at the New Leaf Classroom, and Shauna Pickett-Gordon played piano, and Rev Ben Meyers gave the sermon, True Religion, ? And we added more music components to our first Sunday gatherings. Sandy Coleman gifted UUCC with silver hymnals, and later I picked up some teal hymnals, sometimes called the Teal Hymnal Saga. By December 2016, we've modified the service structure. First Sundays featured guest speakers, while third Sundays became lay-led discussions on touchstone themes. I guess Dave said that. Now, in October of 2017, Esther Wallace, she was then a first semester student at Star King School for the Ministry, and she came and spoke to us. And this developed into a thing. Really two things. We had Esther enough times that it fills all my fingers, and we also started having UUCC as a role strategically fostering pre-intern Star King students. Now, in 2018, Tovis Page, at the time she was interning from Star King at UUSM, developed a more cohesive order of service as a template. And we began inviting a wide range of speakers, including rabbis, Buddhist monks, and professors of philosophy and physics. He was a cosmologist, if that matters in the details. At the New Leaf Classroom, Shauna would play on a portable keyboard and became our official music director in 2018. Many people fondly remember the number of guest musicians that played during those New Leaf days. There was Kevin Nova, Mo Robinson, the Peninsula Scottish Fiddlers, Elizabeth Ingber, the Coastside Threshold Choir with Linda Grace Frost, Lisa Spector, Tom Devine, Vera Vandersharp, Judy Engel, and more. And several people warmly recalled the a cappella ensemble and junior ensembles led by Krista Enos. There were many firsts during our New Leaf classroom days. We developed our logo and created banners. According to Dave Rudiger, the New Leaf location helped him realize that church is not a building, it's people interacting and supporting each other. And three of us, me, Noreen, and David Rudiger, attended our first shared pulpit class taught by Rev Ben and Tovis Page in that fall, which led to a new phase of more lay-led speakers. We developed some resilience skills, as demonstrated at the time that the power went out. There was a PG&E outage that rendered the classroom unusable in October of 2019, and it kept us out of the New Leaf classroom, where was scheduled Tom Newman, a recent shared pulpit graduate from UUSM, was supposed to speak. We held the service anyway, outside, music by Tom and Mo Robinson. This is one of Diana Lake's favorite memories. But first, let's reflect on some other favorite moments from regular attendees of the New Leaf years. Diane Baker's favorite memory was when Lynn Ewing spoke at UUCC on It Matters What You Believe. And Diane was glued to her every word, thinking, this is what I came to UU services for. Three people noted that their favorite moment was when Krista Enos and her youth a cappella ensemble sang at UUCC to a packed crowd with many parents, friends, and siblings of the young singers in attendance. Okay, now, I'm introducing Shauna here. No one is more passionate about choirs than Shauna Pickett-Gordon, UUCC's music director emeritus, who is in charge of giving UUCC equally enthralling choral experiences during our Zoom and New Leaf classroom years. Here on the coast, Shauna performs chamber music, teaches voice and piano, and plays for silent films right here in Oddfellows. The Peninsula Scottish Fiddlers are also under her direction. She has long organized and participated in all of UUCC's holiday fundraising efforts, and her presence at our celebration at our 10th anniversary is especially welcome. Shauna will be playing Spirit of Life, one of Carlene Galperi's favorite memories from services past. Welcome, Shauna.
So now we're on to Act III. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Right? Okay, on March 17th in 2020, the New Leaf Classroom closed to the COVID epidemic, and did we ever need a strong dose of that spirit of life? That, if you recall, was the day, pretty close to the day, when our lives kind of shut down for a while. You know, we were not allowed to travel, we were not allowed to talk to each other, we were not blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah, that was an interesting part of life. So at that time, though, with Rob Carey, Shauna Pickett-Gordon, Noreen Cooper-Hevelin, Drew Wilson, and Bruce Raffno, we managed to put together a Zoom meeting just 2 weeks later, on the first Sunday in April, for online services that, little did we know, would actually continue for 2 years. In reality, those 2 years are one of the highlights for me, for UUCC. It was just phenomenal what they did. It was just amazing. High levels of creativity and strong social connections characterized our Zoom era. Many of us contributed expertise to the task. Drawing on her KQED days, Noreen brought strong organizational and on-camera presentation skills to the table. Shauna, Bruce, Tom, and Rob trained people to sing and record while listening to a scratch track. These single tracks were then combined by computer into multi-track choral hymns. Amazing. And what about those beautiful slideshows? UUCC stood head and shoulders above many other UU congregations with their quality music recordings and stunning visuals. We reached out to see if any other UU congregations needed technical assistance during this time, and we formed lasting relationships with the UUs from Lake County, Northern California, Santa Cruz, Livermore, Live Oak, Temecula, and San Mateo. For our YouTube channel, our logo's graphic designer, Betsy Warren, made a stunning banner for our YouTube channel, while Rob Carey assisted with setting up. Currently, UUCC has more than 108 videos on our YouTube channel and more than 528 recordings in our music library. Perhaps our most impressive accomplishments were our all-music fundraisers for coast-side nonprofits. We raised over $20,000 for local nonprofits during the pandemic under the guidance of Shauna and later music director Tom Devine. Late in the Zoom era, Verna led us in a June Pride service. For Coast Pride, Bruce had filmed the very first Half Moon Bay Pride Parade in 2023. Bill Hevelin added introductory titles, and Noreen sought permission for the Heather Small soundtrack Proud behind Bruce's video. This video became the service interlude, a really nice weaving of efforts. Verna wrote to us about how, during the worst of the pandemic in 2020, she felt a deep connection to UUCC through Zoom. At that point, she was in a very stressful job. She felt anxious all the time, and she felt isolated. Feeling the warm virtual welcome from UUCC via Zoom was a lifeline that she was always and will always be grateful for. And I'm certain everyone who attended UUCC during those Zoom years felt very thankful for that lifeline. During UUCC's Zoom service production period, there was a great deal of creativity, innovation, and collaboration. So it's appropriate to take a moment to recognize Freya at home. Did I say that right? Yeah. Freya. Our newest creative in the UUCC music verse. She worked with Andrew Tibbetts to arrange Joni Mitchell's song, Both Sides Now. The song will be played by her brother Diedrich at home, and on piano.
title of Reverend Ben's sermon today is How the Light Gets In. And most people may recognize this phrase from Leonard Cohen's song, Anthem. The idea behind these words can be traced to the 13th century Sufi mystic poet Jalaluddin Rumi. Translated by Coleman Barks, this is a question-answer exchange between Rumi and his teacher, the dervish Shamsi Tabrizi. I find it deeply relevant for UUCC in its current fledgling state. Let's read this as call and response. I'll read the lines for I said, and you read the reply by reading the he said lines. What about my eyes?
Keep them on the road.
What about my passion?
Keep it burning.
What about my heart?
Tell me what you hold inside it.
Pain and sorrow.
Stay with it. The wound is the place where the light enters you.
Thank you, Bill and Laurel and Noreen and our musicians and the 2 days and on and on. And thank you for those memories of taking us back through the last 10 years and particularly bringing in the spirit, if you will, of Lynn Ewing, who is such a prominent person in my life and in the ministry at San Mateo and subsequently here too. I'm very glad that she was evoked into this special time together. So, I don't know if it really happened this way, but I do believe it's true. There was an elderly woman who lived in a small village, and every morning she would put 2 pots on the end of a piece of wood and carry it across her shoulders down to the stream. And every morning she would scoop up 2 pots of water and then carry them back to her home along the same path. Now, one of the pots was perfect in every way. It carried a full portion all the way back to her home. But this other pot on this side, it had a crack in it. And so as she walked home, it trickled out the water along one side of the path. Now, for a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the woman bringing home only 1.5 pots of water. And of course, the perfect pot was proud of itself and its accomplishments, and it liked to brag, as pots can do in stories, about its ability to carry a full amount of water back to the house for the old lady. But the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and just miserable, as the way pots can be in stories, that it could only do half of what it had been made to do. So after these 2 years of what the crackpot perceived to be bitter failure, it spoke, again, as the way pots are wont to do in stories, to the woman one day. And it said, I'm just ashamed of myself because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your house. And the old woman just smiled. And she said to the pot, as the story allows, did you notice that there are flowers on your side of the path, but not on the other pot's side? That's because I've always known about your crack. So I planted flower seeds on your side of the path. And every day while we walked back, you nurtured them, you watered them, you caused them to be. For 2 years, I've been able to pick beautiful flowers, decorate the table, share them with friends, bring them to church. without you just being exactly the way you are, there would not be this beauty in the world. This made the cracked pot very happy. That was a story for all my cracked pot friends. How the light gets in, as Bill read, both Rumi and Cohen have noticed that, the crack is where the light gets in. And sometimes I think I have so many cracks that I must be absolutely filled with light. Like the cracked pot, our flaws can actually be blessings, not initially seen as such. The late Peter Fleck, in his sermon, The Blessings of Imperfections, which has been a cornerstone of my ministry for the last 35 years, talked about life being full of opportunities to see the blessings that come from our mistakes, our flaws, and our mishaps, and to see them as the pathway to greater life and wisdom and lightness of being, if we will allow. And in his reflection on imperfections, Fleck asks us to consider frogs. So will you kindly consider frogs, especially the very first amphibians? He writes, the first one that crawled out of the water and onto the land may not have done so because its feet were so strong, but because its gills were so weak. And it was the imperfection of its gills that made the first amphibian into an animal of a higher order. But one can imagine its parents' total distress at this. Imagine, if you will, having a child that was so conspicuously unable to live a normal aquatic life, a child with which there was obviously something different. And one can imagine how it was jeered at by its frog peers. Also consider this, that the first amphibian had no idea of what was happening to it. It had no idea that its imperfection was actually an amazing grace and a blessing to the evolution of life. In his book, The Medusa and the Snail, biologist Lewis Thomas reminds us that we human beings are built to make mistakes. We are coded for error. That is, for being imperfect. We learn, as they say, by trial and error, not trial and triumph. The old phrase puts it that way because that is, in real life, the way it is done. In other words, progress, whether physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, requires error. So if you aren't making mistakes, you aren't learning, you aren't growing, you really aren't engaged in this one wild and precious life given you. And my friends, we are now living again in a time of great trial and errors. Lots of errors. Can I get an amen? Amen. And lots of cracks in the fabric of our families, our communities, and our nation. Heather Cox Richardson writes that we are living in the greatest division in our country since the Civil War. A war based upon mostly a single issue, the original sin of slavery in this country. Cox is a brilliant historian with the ability to teach us about our present selves as a people and a nation through the actions, good and bad, of our past. She lifts up the similarities between the great division, that great division, and the one we are currently living in and hopefully someday soon through. Although what the outcome will be is still unknown, as we are fully only too aware of and anxious about. It's dependent upon what we do collectively as a nation next in response to the ever-widening cracks in our democratic institutions. This time we are divided not on a single issue, but on many. Sides have been drawn and hardened along difference about climate change and a woman's right to agency, about economic policy and the rights of all for affordable housing, the right to unionize, and health care for all, Social Security and migrant rights, LGBTQ plus rights, and our country's place in international leadership, voting rights, and of course, whether our democracy will survive the onslaught of its erosion. There are many cracks in our nation's fabric, and for hope and guidance, Cox points to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln as a prescription for us in these divisive times, an example of what yet could be if enough people with great courage take action against our anxieties, in spite of our anxieties, and against the current wave of cruelty to achieve the good for all. So in the spirit of this 10th celebration of this social justice community and the 4th of July holiday we are still enjoying, I want to offer this story from the spiritual struggle of our nation's history. After narrowly winning the election of 1860, Lincoln left his home of 25 years in Springfield, Illinois, and headed by train towards Washington, D.C. And along the way, he made stops and gave speeches. He wrote letters and essays and newspaper articles, which were published widely in anticipation of his inauguration and administration on the eve of the Civil War. At a stop in my hometown of Indianapolis, he gave a speech that was transcribed and distributed across the nation. As reassuringly as he could, he said the nation's fate depended upon the people with these words: "I will only say that to the salvation of this union, there needs but one single thing: the hearts of a people like yours. When the people rise in masses in behalf of the union and the liberties of their country, truly may it be said, the gates of hell shall not prevail against them. I appeal to you again, constantly bear in mind that with you, not with politicians, not with presidents, not with office seekers, but with you is the question: shall the Union and shall the liberties of this country be preserved to the latest generations?" Now, these words were the precursor for perhaps the greatest speech in American history, the Gettysburg Address, given at the very turning point of the war and after its worst battle, the most carnage to date, something we may relate to in our present moment. Recalling the origins of the nation, Lincoln at that time recentered the focus of the struggle for the soul of the Union to the fundamental document upon which freedom from England was predicated, the Declaration of Independence. And in just 272 words, you can check my counting, Lincoln crafted the most eloquent basis for the war and its purpose for the survival of our country. And here now is just a portion of that great lesson on brokenness and healing. Let us remember these words together. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. It is now for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. So here we are now, some 74 years from that historic moment in our nation, at another fork in the road for our democracy. One which could not be clearer although the fog of misinformation, disinformation, and flat-out untruths are being repeated by people who firmly believe what they are being told. We are witnessing policy based upon cruelty, vengeance, and ignorance of the earlier lessons of our history. Anxiety is high among us, for much is at stake. But what happens next is yet within our grasp. Friends, the Gettysburg Address expresses the profound conviction that the American experiment in democracy must not be allowed to fail. And I speak of all this not as a matter of politics, but as a deeply spiritual matter. Democracy has been and continues to be one of the fundamental principles of our faith and a hallmark of our Unitarian Universalist spiritual heritage. I speak of these things not to conjure more anxiety, because democracy must remain at the heart of the matter for us as religious communities, covenanted as we are to affirm and uphold the centrality and sacredness of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large, as we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression, confronting the powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love, not fear. Love. In 1 Corinthians 13:13, that Christian scripture teaches us that faith, hope, and love, these three abide, and the greatest of these is love. Said the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., truth is the highest good, and love, he says, is the highest truth. We must continue to speak the truth in love, love beyond all fears, and to keep love at the center of our lives. In these dispiriting times in which we live, he taught us, I have come to believe that the basic religious response is to refuse to be dispirited for long. Yes, we live in a time of great division, anxiety and fear for the future of our bodies, our right to be who we are and to love whom we love, and to have access to basic, fundamental human rights and dignity through work, shelter, health benefits, and freedom, with liberty and justice for all. These are the very embodiments of healing love, the cornerstone of our faith, and the healing antidote to the toxic times in which we are living. The very values that we promote and battle for will be our strength and solace in the struggle ahead. For we are not alone. Repeat with me. We are not alone. Democracy must not die, though its death now be rung. The bell of freedom, though it is cracked, must continue to ring and to live on by what we do, especially how we treat one another, especially the stranger in our land. How we work together to counter the forces of fascism, authoritarianism, and oppression with equity, justice, and the loving civility for one another. I want to leave you with this last image of brokenness and healing. A student once asked the anthropologist Margaret Mead what she considered to be the first sign of civilization in a culture. The student expected the anthropologist to talk about hooks or clay pots or sharpening stones, but no. The great anthropologist Margaret Mead said that the first sign of civilization for any culture is the proof of a broken femur bone that had healed. That is proof that a person suffered a broken femur, but that it healed. Now, Mead explained that in the rest of the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you die. You can't run from danger. You can't go get a drink of water from the river, you become prey. You can't hunt or feed yourself. You're prey for predators. No animal survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that healed is proof that someone took the time to stay with the one who fell, healed the injury, put the person to safety, and cared for them until they recovered. She said, helping someone through difficulty is the starting point of all civilization. My friends, helping one another, standing together through all adversity, helping one another heal from the cracks and the limitations is the place we begin, the starting place for everything, to let our light shine out. This is something you already know. So remember this. Let your light shine as we sing together. So be it, may be so. Ashe, namaste. Let us rise in body and spirit and sing this song, this little light of mine.
Rev Ben with us today. He's been a big support for UUCC for so many years, and it just would be wrong for anybody else to be here. So in May, we're now in Act IV, the odd and the curious. And in May 2022, we held our first service in Oddfellows Hall with guest speaker Rev Moshe, and his sermon was entitled Holy Chutzpah. He was talking about the courage that was required to stand up for justice, equality, and inclusion. And this sermon, along with Bill Hevlin's most recent one, was one of Judy Easter's favorites. So we had a flower ceremony and grand reopening at Oddfellows Hall in June 2022. And as a Star King graduation gift, we gave Esther Wallace her first ministerial stole. And Esther delivered a breakout sermon entitled Hope is a Discipline.
and it was one of Bill Heblin and Joanne Rakowski's favorite sermons. In November 2022, Linda Grace Frost reinvented the water ceremony in creative cahoots with mirth-tone singers. And in December, we held our first in-person all-music fundraiser for Abundant Grace. And that was a huge undertaking orchestrated by music director Tom Devine. This hall's acoustics, which enhance UUCC's musical stars, are truly what sets this place apart. You remember Shauna playing on that keyboard, right? The portable keyboard in the New Leaf classroom. We're so lucky to have a grand piano here where Deidre can play and you can return and play. And our music program is of the highest caliber. I don't know how we deserve these people who come and play for us. They are so good, but we're very thankful. Because we're small, you know, we shouldn't have people this good. And even though Tom left his position as music director in 2022, his deep baritone voice and musical expertise continue to delightfully lead us in hymn. And his September 2023 service, Beauty, still speaks to us. And this was one of Bill Heblin's favorite sermons. So what really distinguishes this period, the Odd Fellows years, is that UUCC worked harder to fortify beloved community and engage more broadly in social action initiatives on the coast. It wasn't just about putting on good services. In the past, our support for neighborhood nonprofits came in the form of our annual music fundraisers, but in January 2023, the whole foundation of this community was shaken by the mass shooting of 7 local farm workers. And UUCC joined other coastside religious leaders to speak out at city council meetings and memorial services in favor of safe and affordable housing for farm workers. And we began marching in parades. We marched along Coast Pride for LGBTQ+ rights and Alas for affordable housing. And we staffed craft tables, you know, during Make It Main Street for Coast Pride. And we've been out there every time for the demonstrations recently, ever since Trump was elected, the International Women's Day demonstration in March, and most recently the No King's Day in June. So additionally, Joanne Rakowski reminds us of the good we can do in the Opportunity for Good section in our newsletter. We've got almost 200 people on our mailing list, and we have such a high open rate, and I really think part of it is because the people are reading that Opportunity for Good section. You know, because not everybody shows up. If we had 100 people staffing, I mean, in these halls, that would be amazing. And it goes without saying that the social action-oriented sermons are among Joanne's favorites. Tova's Page, speaking about her experience traveling the path of migrants struggling in the desert as they tried to reach the United States. Eric DeBode explaining his life mission to walk alongside the homeless population. And Ronnie Boyd identifying the realities of housing insecurity that impacts so many low-income neighbors. In worship services, we continue to experiment with formats. And this is one of the advantages of being small and new. We can do really wild and crazy things because we're not steeped in tradition. So in July 2023, we had our Invitation to Play service where we collectively created our sailboat logo over there. Each person decorated a part of the logo. And Tom introduced something called sermon sharing in March 2024 so that people could enrich the sermon with their real-world experiences. And since February, Bill Heblin has been sharing gratitude cards to complement the generosity practice, and I'll be passing those out in just a short while. And we continue to support Starting Divinity students by giving them a safe and non-judgmental place to deliver sermons. And we get to watch their progress because, you know, a lot of the larger, more established churches, they can't have the unpolished newbies come and speak, right? But we can have them come. And we've been able to see the remarkable transformation in the 5 Star King graduate students who've been here speaking at UUCC. We list Tovis Page as one of them, Esther Wallace, Clovis Lewis Jr., Ron Anon, and most recently, Ronnie Boyd. So we continue introducing community bonding programs, such as Deeper Conversations, some kind of modern men's group, and we had a Friendsgiving and a Friendsmas Zoom call this year. So people who would like to spend the holidays with friends because family was far away could do that. And so among many other memorable moments, Regina mentioned that she is especially thankful for these smaller gatherings. Last but not least, our 2024 holiday service was a community event featuring a variety of contributions, such as David Rudiger's most memorable theatrical reading of The Cremation of Sam McGee, and Regina's reflection about her mother riding a bike into the forest to gather evergreen boughs for Advent wreaths, which is one of Carlene's favorite memories. Since September 2024, we have been making the transition to a standalone congregation, and that involved getting many letters of recommendations from various nonprofit executive directors, local UU congregations, and our former Star King interns. We have 14 letters in all, and thanks to Bill Hevelin, Nancy Palmer, and myself for pulling all this together, which was a huge undertaking. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Nancy's dedicated service to UUCC. She's been a former planning committee member, our treasurer, and archivist without interruption. I'd also like to mention David Rakowski, who has been with us since day one. And speaking of gratitude for all Bill does for UUCC, he's a planning committee member, soon we'll be having to call ourselves board members now. Excellent sermon writer, video editor, resident artist. The list is endless. Bill is another critical reason we are here today, and he's here now to ask you to consider supporting this wonderful little church that could.
Okay, here I am. More words. Of course, I'm supposed to put you in the mind of giving us some money. And very shortly I'll get around to that. But first, we are passing out some gratitude cards. Most of them are with that logo imprinted on them, and there's should be enough for everybody, and I've been counting it.
Did you make them?
Sort of. One has my copyright notice and one has the UUCC copyright notice. And you can either share these cards, or I think there are a few people that have become collectors, or both. Anyway, there's also a document sharing the contributions of everybody regarding their favorite UCC moments, and that's because we weren't able to read them in the entirety. It's always good to see how different people find value and support in UUCC, especially as we mark our 10th anniversary. Now, for donations, for those that were here last month, the rules are about the same. You donate cash by putting bills in the plate. And you donate by check, make out the checks to the Unitarian Universalist COSIDE community or UU COSIDE. And we hope you make good use of these cards. As many of you know, this is our first month separated from our former fiscal sponsor, the UUs of San Mateo. SM never financially subsidized UUCC, but now in our new status as a fully independent covenanting community recognized by UUA as such, if you could give a little more, it would more than ever help give a little more light to shine through. Express the connections felt in our bones, unplugging from UUSM financial sponsorship, launching our own legal entity. Some might call this a wound, some speak exultantly about the light. Beginnings like this are like this. There's a yang part and a yin part. And speaking of yang and yin, well, the cards are given out and donations are received. Vera plays her own gorgeous arrangement of Dennis Costner's Boulerians.
now we extinguish our candle flame. Please join me in reading these words by Craig Rowland entitled, Here and Beyond These Walls. The words are in your order of service. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain within us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak the truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way.
So our closing hymn, which I invite you to stand and sing, is Ours is a Simple Faith, music and lyrics by David Tomulovich. One of my favorite memories of the last 10 years is when I was putting together the first fundraiser I put together, and somehow we found this song on the internet. And I contacted David Tomulovich, who lives in Minnesota, and asked him for permission to use it. He was so happy to have his song used. It was one of my favorite moments. So Diedrich will play it. Diedrich, if you play it, the music through once, one of the verses, so that people, we don't have this in the hymnals, so you'll have to get the hymn by ear, but it's quite easy. Diedrich, take it away.
As we prepare to leave, I'm going to ask that you make connection with the people next to you. Maybe that's just touching an elbow. Maybe you don't want to hold hands. That's fine. And better yet, if you could turn towards one another. Creativity is messy. We know that. And so the main thing is to make connection with the people around you. So let's come on down. Sometimes people joke about Unitarian Universalists and call us liturgically impaired. I call us liturgically creative. There you go. Look around this room. Feel the warmth that is here. See the smiles, the brightness of the eyes, the willingness, and the heart. Hear these words of blessing. As you leave this place in the presence of one another, may love be your guide, and courage your companion, and may joy greet you at every turn. May you seek health and wholeness in all things, and exercise a generosity of substance and spirit in all that you do. And may the truth always come easily to your lips, even in this world that is often fearful and fractured and false. Despite this, my friends, strive to be happy, but remain unsatisfied until this world is made more fair. Until this world is made more fair and love abounds by what we do or leave undone. Go in peace, live with grace and gratitude. Return again and again in love. Amen.
Amen.
Nice to have you with
You're
us.
welcome. Yes.
Good for you, Dad.